Director of Business Architecture, Vision Bank. A clap for Eric, please. Okay. Hanane, I'll hand over the stage to you, and please engage us and explain to us, with the help of your panel here, what role will edge infrastructure play in the Middle East digital future? Check your mics, guys, please.
Let's try again. Perfect. Thank you so much, and definitely excited to keep the energy going with another interesting topic. But before we start asking the panelists question, let me ask everyone here. How many are familiar with edge computing? Just raise your hand. All right. Okay. Not bad. Perfect. Then I think it starts with let's define it a bit, because it's quite a diverse, you could say, range of application of it. So I think I'll start with my neighbor here, Mr. Khaleelo. What is edge computing from your organizational point of view? Is it just smaller data centers?
Well, good afternoon. My name is Khaleelo Khan. So I'm actually now part of the worldwide telecoms industry team. I'm a global advisor for Microsoft. And so thank you for the invitation today. I think when we look at the technology shift that's now happening, we need to look at what's happening with data and the ebb and flow in data trends. And that's really kind of creating the titanic shift that we're seeing in technology. And shaping up this move to cloud, to edge. If we just look at some data points, 90% of the world's data has been created in the last 2 years. And Gartner also estimates that we'll see 75% of that data created at the edge. And that makes an important point for us to think about how do we actually process that data that's created at the edge. And this is kind of creating the paradigm shift for Microsoft, who are now thinking and have been thinking about how we create that cloud to edge continuum in the market and how we support that.
Hi, my name is Saaim. I'm heading the enterprise technology function at Al Musafir, which is part of Seera Group, a Saudi public listed company. So when we look at edge, I have a different perspective than Khan, because I would say if you asked this question 10 years ago, I would have a different answer, because edge and data centers were considered as two separate entities, two separate things. But if you talk about edge these days, I think they can be considered as smaller data centers, to be honest, because they have the same capabilities as a full-fledged data center, but just in a smaller footprint, right? Also, they can provide cache content. They can provide cloud computing resources closer to the devices. It's just that it provides in a lower latency manner. And that's why they're taking a lot of upfront embracing from the organization these days, just because of that low latency. But the capabilities from an edge infrastructure and data centers are similar now. So I would say edge can be considered as a smaller data center versus being a separate entity on its own.
So I think it looks like we have two viewpoints. I will take a medium path here, okay? So basically, in my point of view, edge computing, it's a new way of computing, which is emerging now. It's a new computing paradigm which brings, like as he mentioned, the compute, the storage closer to the data sources, which is nowadays very much essential for the kind of digital transformation we are doing for the industries, right? We are living in the era of Industry 4.0, which actually brings in the digital and the physicals together. So if you reimagine your business, quite a lot of your decision makings are happening locally, and it has to happen at the low latency in a faster pace. In a way, we are all edge computing devices. All of you make thousands of decisions in your day-to-day life, and you do a lot of computing. Same way, our computing paradigm is also changing, We adopted cloud for the past a decade or so. Now the computing model is changing. So by using edge computing, probably we can also bring in optimization for our computing infrastructure, reduce the cost of quite a lot of communications, and also a lot of predictive, preventive actions can be taken by these kind of architectures. So I agree with both of you. And if you look at, it could be smaller data centers, it could be computing devices, networked devices, security-related technologies at the location, which autonomously taking some decision based on set criteria. That's my viewpoint.
Hi there, yeah. My name's Eric Horring. So I'm a business architect currently working in a startup banking environment in Saudi Arabia. Having had a lot of experience before starting off with technologies and across a lot of different industries, I kind of see the edge computing today as a little bit of a jump back to the future, because it was like this is how we were before, we in a distributed environment of having systems before we moved them into large data centers. So a little bit we're going back to first principles of moving the processing closer to the users. Hugely important today with a lot of the sensors which we're actually collecting information, and the AI that we're building and making processing things before we send them to our larger data centers, which is critical in handling the amount and volume of information. But really in my role currently now here in, we're being a digital bank, we're not really looking at investing in infrastructure, but a lot of our providers are, and providing us with that information from our users to understand what the patterns are and what they're doing, how we can get that, and they're certainly using a lot of this edge infrastructure for that. My goal is to make sure that the business understands what those things are. Edge computing to us is a term, but we need to communicate that into what that actually means for our stakeholders, what that means in the C-level. So that's what I spend a lot of my time actually doing, and happy to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic, diverse set of answers, and I think that leads to the second question, which is sustainability, which was also touched upon in the previous panel. Data centers are estimated to use or consume 10 times more and emit 10 times more as well per square meter compared to a normal built facility in CO2. So would you be able to share an example or strategy on how your organization are trying to cope with the additional operational and embodied carbon that edge computed might bring, especially with COP28 around the corner?
Yeah. So I mentioned before about the cloud to edge continuum, and we see the edge in terms of several factors that will be from device to customer site to the telecom operator's site, and even back to the edge of the public cloud. And I think when we look at that in terms of a sustainability agenda, Microsoft's committed to that in terms of being 100% renewable energy by 2025, and committed to water positive and net zero ecosystem, etc. So in everything that we do around our infrastructure capability, we're thinking about that. And if you look at it from an edge perspective, there's many different types of edge appliances that we have. And if I take two examples, one is our Azure Stack Edge, which does processing of IoT, analytics, and AI. Actually even allows you to run a 5G call on a 1U box. It's the size of a pizza box. And it's recyclable. But not only that, you can connect it obviously to solar panels and battery powers and actually put back into the grid. But if I look beyond that, and there are different layers, colleague on the side here said about compute infrastructures being like mini data centers. If you look at most cities, most populated cities in the world are actually by water, by the sea. And in fact, Microsoft has a project called Project Natic, where we've put small data centers at the edge into the ocean, where we're using it for cooling and renewable energy. And that allows us to process that data without backhauling it into the cloud. So we're always looking at new initiatives about how we can contribute to a sustainable society.
Being part of a group that has a lot of different offices in different locations. For example, in our case, our head office is in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, regional office in Dubai, and then Egypt, as well as few countries in Europe. We have edge infrastructure in each of these locations. And currently, we're looking at expanding our Dubai edge infrastructure. So when we look at those use cases, every time you need expansion or building a new DC, there's definitely a requirement of power. But with more power usage, you definitely emit more CO2, which has a negative impact on your environment. So what we've started looking at, we're not there yet, to be honest, but we started looking at solar energy as a means of power for our data centers. So right now, we're looking at expanding our Dubai DC and our edge infrastructure capabilities. And with that, we're looking at whether we can use solar to power the infrastructure itself or not. And if we are able to do that, so that becomes a big contributor to sustainability and environment in this case.
So I'm coming from a family-based conglomerate background, and our businesses are predominantly into automotive dealership properties, real estate and properties, a bit of logistics and manufacturing. So one of our first thing in sustainability was one of the goals we have adopted was responsible production and consumption, one of the UN SDG goals. So initially, because of that drive, I hope you guys remember there was a Green IT initiative in the past. So we pushed a lot of compute onto the cloud. Definitely, like we use Microsoft, so you guys are committed. So we get carbon credit reports from the cloud service providers for our compute. A localized data center definitely will not have that kind of a rating. So that was the first part. Then we also evaluated scenarios where, how we can reduce energy consumption locally. So in our real estate business, we have quite a lot of infrastructure now put in, edge infrastructure put in to measure and manage the energy consumptions. So how to make buildings more smarter. That is one of the action. Then in the future, most of our cars, like Tesla, Tesla is a connected car. So similarly, even an internal combustion engine will be connected to the overall vehicle cloud infrastructure to manage and measure the energy consumption, and also give a lot of location-based insights to the consumers. So these are some of the scenarios now we are piloting within the organization. And apart from that, there are a lot of environmental control systems which manages the energy. So this is the use cases at the moment we are practicing.
Yeah, I think sustainability is really finally coming to the fore now, but it's interesting in banking, just like when you send your email, no one really thinks about how much that transaction cost. How much power did Gmail use versus, my Microsoft Outlook or, Hotmail. So it's an interesting avenue that I think we will definitely be pursuing, being a new innovator in the area. We're always looking for ways which we can differentiate ourselves. Banking is quite a commodity item, really, in most markets. So we really are looking for those kind of niche areas and actually using that sustainability angle. And, we're trying to look at a way with our data centers we currently use. We're a little bit limited in Saudi Arabia, unfortunately, waiting for Azure to arrive. So look forward to that. But having these edge appliances, edge areas, parts of our infrastructure, which we can say are very lightweight and costing per transactions a small amount, would actually be a really good angle for us to explore. So I'm looking forward to us engaging more in that kind of area as well from financial perspective to make sure your footprint in your banking is not being done offshore in some large data center. Instead we can say, well, this is being done in a small regional local area which is produced with renewable energies as well. That's a great thing.
Fantastic, and then you're absolutely right. I think not many think one Google search is like lightning a light bulb. Remember how many megawatts was, like 45 minutes. Correct me if you have the correct numbers. But going back maybe to the tech side, and let's start with you, Mr. Khan, from a Microsoft perspective, and also with your extensive experience and knowledge, how do you see Microsoft's role in driving the adoption of edge computing? And it's up to you to answer if you want to take it from a regional or global perspective.
Yeah, so edge for us has been now really a complement, so this kind of decentralized architecture of having edge is really a complement to our centralized architecture of a hyperscale public cloud. And there's been much debate about, this shift to edge and whether it displaces the cloud, and others thinking that the cloud will take the back seat. And from obviously Microsoft perspective, we see it as a complement and a hybrid approach. And actually they complement each other in terms of helping with blind spots. And it's about in making sure that we focus on the right processing needs and in terms of response for latency, data velocity, security, complex deployment, the complexity of the deployment, and take those all into consideration when we think about a hybrid deployment. The next chapter for Microsoft is moving now to what we think is going to be edge computing worldwide. And we look at that again with a complement of a backdrop of a public cloud, but it's edge computing worldwide, and we don't think about where the cloud is. And we believe now with the advent of 5G, that's going to bring ubiquitous computing, and it's making us think about how we start to deliver network-aware intelligence applications. Because we have now AI, which is being fused into the edge, which is obviously making sure that we start to think, need GPU needs and obviously large storage. So we're thinking now about how we build modern connected apps that are network aware and intelligent and can do the processing at the edge wherever they are. And it's also about understanding the environmental conditions that they're in, and that obviously dictates the type of edge device that you have, but also allows you to scale to different localities. So when we think about an oil rig and the sensors and the collection of data, but also in terms of processing the velocity of data and where it needs to be stored, we want people to develop apps that become network aware and uses the right edge with the right combination of the public cloud to process the outcome that the customer is looking for. So that's kind of the next chapter of our thinking.
Interesting. And then going to Seera Group, how do you envision edge computing impacting your specific sector in the Middle East, and how are you preparing for this transformation?
So Seera Group, being a public listed company in the Saudi Stock Exchange, there are recent data protection laws that are coming into the Saudi region where we need to host data locally, especially the PII. And that mandates us to rely more and more on edge versus cloud computing, especially given that the top three players, the cloud providers, are not there yet. One of them just recently is announcing soon their presence in Saudi Arabia. But so far, because they were not there yet, so we had to rely a lot on edge infrastructure. We can't get rid of SaaS applications where infrastructure is not controlled by us. We can't 100% not rely on cloud. We have partnerships with two of the larger cloud providers, so we host our digital applications there. However, in case of the data protection laws coming into the region, we are now looking at more and more reliance on edge so that we can have a hybrid architecture in this case, connectivity with SaaS, connectivity with cloud, but via the edge infrastructure.
Interesting. And then Samuel from AW Rostamani, we heard about legal and data sovereignty and worldwide concept being rolled out. How do you see it from a consumer-facing perspective? Like, how can edge enhance customer experience and services in the region, and how are you planning to leverage from this technology?
Yeah. So in our business models, we have a lot of B2C business models. So one of this is the automotive, the other one is real estate and properties. So some of the use cases within our organization context, what we are trying to do is in the service center area, to reduce the cost of operation. So the base which services car is one of the bottleneck in service centers. So how to analyze the productivity efficiency of the bay and the utilization. So most of our facilities are connected to CCTV environment. We have computer vision possible there, so that we can measure and monitor the utilization of the bays to improve the productivity. These bays are linked to mechanics and then the kind of job which is being done for that particular car. So that is one of the area. Then many other aspects are coming in the real estate and property side to optimize the energy utilization. Another angle is when we are storing quite a lot of information on cloud, since as a group we are also expanding to other regions, data privacy, data protection is also a major factor. So we have also realized the need for reversing some of those business processes back into the enterprise and make sure that this kind of information are processed locally. So these are some of the major shifts happening in the computing paradigm. And the other aspect is in the logistics and transportation. So we have a lot of trucks, transporting goods. So every single truck and its optimized utilization is measured through edge devices and integrating with cloud. So these are some of the major aspects, ultimately provide better services to consumers.
Fantastic. And then going to a finance side, so from a business architecture perspective, what are unique challenges and opportunities do you foresee for Edge in the Middle East?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting opportunity for some of our providers, especially. Some of the things around, when we have large events like these huge festivals in Saudi Arabia, like Middle East, where we have hundreds of thousands of people coming to one place, and having that payments perhaps localized into a single edge area as well, to facilitate these transactions, making sure that things are going seamlessly would be a real advantage to be able to say that our network, our payments network, our backbone is going to be far faster, more reliable than anyone else. The other area I can see is around some fraud detection as well, knowing that certain areas we're processing that fraud information in smaller areas, smaller batches before we send it to our back end. So we're not transmitting huge amounts of data, it's small amounts of nuggets of information that we can then correlate with other pieces of information to detect fraud. So having that opportunity is really some major points that I think we could do. Also the understanding of, behavior of our actual consumers, how they're using our products, where they're using it, getting that edge data transmitted again in a consolidated form, not like in a large, vast amount of information. And I can see that starting to happen already with our providers. So yeah, really excited to see how that will go forward and improve the interaction of information that we get as well, being refined rather than bulk through these edge systems.
Great. And since we also well on time and we talked about adoption, we talked about the benefits, we talked about some of the, you can say, potential drivers. I'd love to hear if anyone has any questions or comments to what has been discussed so far. I see a hand over there.
Check. Anybody for questions, please raise your hands.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the informative insights provided by the speakers. 2 points I have related to the edge computing and what's so-called decentralized architecture. One aspect which is related to business continuity. There was always a focus as one of the main advantage for the edge computing or edge infrastructure is to provide decentralized computing, which gives you an opportunity in case of any business continuity or disaster situation that your central compute or central data center is not available, you will be able at least to utilize the edge infrastructure and provide at least the minimum level of service to your customers. So this was one of the, I can say, advantages or propositions for edge computing. However, due to some limitation in terms of application compatibility or application architecture, that it is mainly centralized, and this is a question to our speaker from Microsoft, that most of your especially advanced solutions or advanced platforms, they are only centrally managed by your Azure cloud or within your cloud proposition, and it is not designed for a decentralized architecture. Hence, edge infrastructure is not able to be leveraging this continuity from business continuity proposition. So the question to you and to also the other speakers, if anybody or any one of application compatibility or application architecture, that it is mainly centralized, and this is a question to our speaker from Microsoft, that most of your especially advanced solutions or advanced platforms, they are only centrally managed by your Azure cloud or within your cloud proposition, and it is not designed for a decentralized architecture. Hence, edge infrastructure is not able to be leveraging this continuity from business continuity proposition. So the question to you and to also the other speakers, if anybody or any one of you is leveraging this edge infrastructure from business continuity and disaster recovery point of view. Thank you.
So I think if I heard the last question right, was regarding about the services in the cloud can't be replicated to the edge. Did I hear that right? The objective of our edge strategy is not to replicate the hyperscale public cloud. Otherwise, there'll be no need for edge. And we also can't have Azure cloud data centers everywhere, because it defeats the objective in terms of what we're trying to achieve with the investments that we're making in scale, as well as in terms of advanced technologies, etc. Because there's a huge amount of investment. If you just take the work that Microsoft is doing with OpenAI and the amount of GPUs that are required, this is not going to be in every data center that we have in every region across the world, right? So replication, even amongst our Azure cloud regions, is not there also for every workload. Having said that, our edge strategy is in several slices, if you like. We have, even at a controller level on sensors, etc., or on a 1U edge box that we can run a private core, or a hyper-converged infrastructure, which is, taking our software stack of Azure as infrastructure as a service and being able to put that on other OEMs. So we have various form elements. But what we can do is analytics. What we can do is AI. What we can do is IoT. But you've got to remember, if we are putting AI, we can execute on the edge. But the training, the vast amount of data that you need, the GPUs that you need, the training has to happen in the cloud. And that's why I say that our edge approach, which is a decentralized architecture to execute, is a complement to the hyperscaler public cloud. And that's why we look at it as a hybrid. It's not an either-or. It's a hybrid approach, and that's what we're taking with our strategy.
Would anyone share some experiences as well?
Yep. See, I have a different viewpoint. When you talk about a business continuity, it's for the large enterprise, right? So if you look at the mix of computing they have to do, they definitely will have applications which are integrated and connected to a central server. Also, you might have edge computing happening for localized decision making for faster solutions, right? So the edge computing paradigm is quite, it has meaning only when you converge the compute, storage, and the decision making local to the source of the data. So you avoid the latency related issues, communication costs, performance issues, all of those kind of things, right? So if your business is truly local, then that makes sense. Still, you have a problem. If that location goes down, then what about the continuity? So you need to have other arrangements, okay? So that is one aspect. Secondly, when we talk about cloud providers, now most of the cloud service providers have multi-availability zones. Even some of the solution providers have record-level multi-availability as an integrated solution. So basically, if you have deployed any application which are business critical, and if you have multi-region availability, something happens here, at least your data is protected. And it's many times avoiding disaster is not possible. I believe in resiliency. How fast you come back to normalcy is what you can protect. Because there are zero-day attacks, there are bombing happening all over the world, and none of you can guarantee that any of the location is safe. So in such case, I'm not spreading fear or anything, but what I'm saying is that if you truly look at what we can work on is resiliency, how fast you come back to normalcy. So where do you spin off your next server and how fast you will connect, right? For that, I think the cloud service providers are giving many different alternatives to enterprises. So slightly, that's my viewpoint on this. So business continuity at a location-specific computing point of view, probably Edge will help you because you can do your business. But at the same time, you will be pulling a lot of information globally from your ERP applications and many other applications which are central in nature and which has to be that way. It cannot be distributed. Otherwise, you will have multiple masters and different type of decisions and inconsistencies in your data structure. So this is two different type of computing which is suitable for different type of business processes. That's my viewpoint. Any answer from you?
Another question? Anybody? Okay.
A quick question to the panelists. How do you see the supply side of the edge infrastructure setup, especially the economics and the dynamics into this region, vis-a-vis what is happening on the edge infrastructure in the rest of the world?
So we've been facing this challenge, to be honest, currently in our organizations where logistics globally has been impacted post-COVID. And that causes a lot of lag in the lead times when it comes to infrastructure needs. My suggestion in those cases is to plan ahead of time based on your future needs, which in some cases, to be honest, is not possible. But as much as possible, if you could plan for next 3 to 5 years, what computing needs do you need, whether it's edge, whether local DC, colo, plan ahead of time because the lead times are really, really bad these days. Looking at Egypt, for example, we are expanding our infrastructure there, but with the currency fluctuations, Egyptian pounds to dollar, the suppliers are literally giving us 2 days lead time and the quotation expires. And no infrastructure provider can provide hardware in 2 days. So those are the challenges that we should keep in mind, especially with the lag happening globally, and plan 3 to 5 years ahead of time.
Yeah, I will add to his point. Another challenge is our environmental challenges, right? So quite a lot of times, your IP rating for your edge devices is a big challenge because we sometimes have 70, 80 degrees in some of the facilities outside because especially when we are parking cars outside the yard, the inside car temperature goes up to 70 to 80 degrees. So what are the durable edge devices you can use? Because I ran an RFID-based location tracking exercise in one of my open yard in DIC. So this was one of the major problem. Then, in the edge computing, one of the major opportunity we have is embedding AI within the edge device so that the algorithmic decision making can be taken very fast in your locations. And whatever is relevant, you bring it to the cloud. Otherwise, you make your decision. This is a simple computing model, right? So embedding AI within, the edge. So if you want to have those kind of location-based devices, and if you talk to the vendors, many of them have their own brand of product which does everything full-fledged. So generic GPU-based devices, which is IP rated for the region, is a challenge. And also the awareness among the community itself is not that great. So the thinking process have to change. The business model has to change. And the tacit knowledge and experience of the people to run their business, if you try to challenge with a GPU-based compute, many of the times you will be fired if he's a CEO, right? So this is something, how can the machine take the decision on behalf of me, and how I can be accountable is another interesting challenge we'll face. So basically, internal adoption is a challenge, then service provider-related product readiness for the market is a challenge. And even in the IT fraternity, the thinking process have to change to adopt edge computing. So we have many challenges to overcome.
Any other questions, please? We can take one more, maybe. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen? Nope. Panel, you want to round it up? Any questions?
Yes, absolutely. Also, as a timekeeper, I'd love to first and foremost thank the panelists. It's been a pleasure, and for your valuable time. And I'd like maybe to start with Eric, for each of you, obviously, to give a key takeaway, a piece of advice for the audience that are looking to embrace edge computing.
Yeah, so I really would, emphasize, when I started a bit with this as well, is like we're all technologists and we understand these things very well. Explaining the benefits to the business is one of the key challenges I think that a lot of us face, and making sure that we are doing, edge computing completely makes sense for the right use case. It doesn't fit every use case. Understanding what those use cases are and how it can unlock your business, that's really one of the most important things that I can think of for this, is really saying, it's not a silver bullet, it's not a distributed computer model, it's like it's something that you need to do at a certain location, and every one of your businesses will have a need for edge computing, right? Unlocking that and then understanding how that's going to create value for your organization is the key. So if you can say that, this is going to save us X amount on areas, this is going to give us X amount of customer value, customer satisfaction, those are the areas that I would tell you to focus on, and making sure that you can communicate that to your business stakeholders. That's really what I'd get out of this. Thanks very much for your time.
So building on Eric's point, the value of a business case is very important, and you need to really have a proper ROI or benefit realization exercise to be done on edge computing. So in a CIO's point of view, my advice to the audience is that, we have been on a cloud transformation journey, and it's over a decade now. Most of the organizations have either a hybrid cloud environment or a true cloud environment. In our case, we are 100% on the cloud. At the same time, we have to now, we should have an edge infrastructure strategy. So basically, it is time for the technology leaders to think about the edge computing infrastructure as a priority in your IT strategy. Embedded with your sustainable, most of the organizations also will be talking about ESG, sustainability related matters within your organization. I'm quite sure that it will be in your board's agenda. So quite a lot of edge computing can support those kind of scenarios in certain use cases. And the second aspect is try to look at the opportunities to embed AI into edge, and then that is a very good use case where you can really make a lot of localized decision making successful. Then the third aspect is, that's the final aspect from my point of view, is to develop cloud, like we used to have cloud native applications, that was the talk of the town. Now it is time for us to have edge native applications to be built, because edge native applications cannot work exactly like a cloud-based application. So your software engineering team have to really get along with the cloud infrastructure operations team to develop edge native applications, so that you can actually provide your business both type of flavors, which will suit your business needs.
Key takeaway from my side would probably be a reiteration of what I said a while back as a response to one of the questions, is plan ahead of time. However, right sizing is important. So we don't want to over-provision or under-provision because of the supply challenges these days. So right sizing is important, because if you end up over-provisioning, planning ahead of time, you'll basically have unutilized infrastructure. So that's important in this case. I know it's hard to do that, especially when the business needs keep changing dynamically in this market. However, as much as possible, make use of right sizing.
Grandview Research estimates CAGR of about 38% for edge computing. And I think we'll see the market reach a growth of around about $155 billion come 2030. And that's a huge market opportunity for edge. And if you look at some other research, BCG looked at 6 use cases probably will earn 3/4 of the market share. That's connected transport, robots and automation, AR, VR, it will be smart grids, and it'll be video analytics. So actually, when you look at those use cases, they're very complex in nature and also include a lot of disruptive technologies. So one of my key takeaways is that when you're thinking about edge, you need to think about having a strong partner ecosystem and having strong partners to help you deliver. Because that's, quite a lot to navigate, especially when we talk about storage and compute and network and putting that all together with some of those advanced technologies.
I would say that was a very strong ending with some great numbers, and feel free to reach out to the panelists and also myself if you have any additional comments or questions. For someone that monitored this interesting industry in the region from a high level, please do also give me a little poke on the shoulder if you're here for COP. I'll be happy to connect there as well in a couple, less than 2 months away. Fantastic. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for joining.
Thank you, Hanane. That was a fantastic insight into the digital future with edge infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, panel, please step forward for a picture. Photography team, head forward. Get a picture here. Thank you, Mr. Khan. Thank you, Mr. Aslam. Thank you, Mr. Samuel. And thank you, Mr. Horring. And of course, thank you, Hanane. Please give a nice round of applause for them, everybody. We're taking another break. This was the third section. We're coming to the final of our discussion.